What's up, y'all? I'm really tired, but what else is new? So today's video is going to be a little different. It's not going to be, one of your tips and techniques videos or my thoughts on videos. It's going to be something different that I kind of just call whatever I want to talk about videos. It's not really going to be like a series or anything. It's just going to be whenever I come up with a different topic to talk about instead of like, a tips video or what have you. So this video came about because the other day I was thinking about when I made my first fursuit, and I see people's first fursuits all the time online, on Twitter, on Instagram, and all that. So it just got me thinking about things that you probably shouldn't consider doing when making your first fursuit to get the best result in the end. Thus, me making this video, I wanted to talk about some of the do's and don'ts when making your first fursuit ever. Now, a disclaimer before I start this video, these aren't going to be like super specific things, like you should only use like high quality thread and you should only double stitch it and stuff like that, because that's for another video. Not to mention I have a whole series of videos on my channel about very specific things to do and not do with certain parts of the fursuit. So this is just going to be a bunch of kind of general-ish things. I'm hoping not too general that you haven't seen them on a million other people's videos about this topic, but they're still going to be general enough that they're not really going to go into a ton of detail, but I'll still try and elaborate what I mean on each point. I'm going to talk about 3 do's and 3 don'ts. Also, small disclaimer, this is all my personal opinion. You are free to do anything on the don't list if you want. It's your life, and a lot of these things are also going to be coming from my personal experience making my first fursuit. If you've watched that video way back when I talked about your first fursuit, you've seen mine, so you can see what it looks like. So again, this is all just coming off of stuff that I personally experienced and I think might help people in the future, because this is all stuff I probably would have been happy to know in the past. So let's get started. The first one on the list, do your research. Now what I mean by do your research is I'm not talking in general, like just look up a few things, how to do things. I'm saying really do your research on all accounts. Look up everything you need to know about making your first fursuit. Look up specific things too, not just how to make your first fursuit, because there's a lot of content out there for that topic and sometimes they're not super specific. So look up things like how to make follow me eyes, or how to carve the head right, or how to line the head, stuff like that. Also definitely do a lot of research on the animal you're creating, because it'll definitely pay off in the long run when your horse looks like a horse. So study how an animal's face looks. Do that research. Look up those pictures. And while we're on the topic of pictures, also do your research on other fursuits you've seen that you kind of want to be inspired by. Look at how they made them and go ahead. And don't feel bad on taking inspiration from them. When I was making my first fursuit head, I scoured the forbidden realms of cosplay.com looking at different cosplayers' fursuit cosplays and basically just making inferences off what I saw to try and figure out how they made it and apply it to my own work. So do all the research you possibly can. You're going to be so thankful in the long run that you took the time to put in the research beforehand. And I probably should have prefaced this by saying do your research before you start working, because you're able to do research while you're working, but it's a lot easier when you have everything all done, you have it all set out, and you know your game plan. That brings us right into the don't. Be above tutorials. Don't be above tutorials. I know you're probably thinking, what? I'm not above tutorials, I need help. Well, I'm sure there's some of you out there who do feel a little, proud of what you do, and you're like, I don't need help, I know what I'm doing, because I'm sure we've all felt that at some point in their life. There's nothing wrong with that, and I'm speaking because I definitely was that person back when I was young and making my first fursuit. There was stuff where like, oh, I've done that before, I don't need help, I can figure it out on my own. But that's what I'm saying. Don't be above tutorials, especially when you think you know what you're doing, because there's a chance that you don't. And there's also a chance that somebody out there might have figured out a better way to do it. So just because you know how to do it doesn't mean your way is like the best way or the most amazing way or the easiest way. Honestly, somebody out there might have found an easier way to do it and a more effective way. So don't be above looking up tutorials for even stuff you know how to do. Like even if you know how to paint the eyes, Look up how other people paint the eyes and see how they're doing it. I'm still doing that today. I'm still looking up how other people do things. And I've been making fursuits for upwards of 9 years. So never think that you can't go look for a tutorial or you can't go look for help just because you know how to do something. It's going to pay off in the long run. And hey, if you're looking for how to do something online and you can't find a tutorial, you can't find like a step-by-step process, maybe you should make it. Help out another poor soul along the way who is trying to make their first fursuit for the first time and they don't know how to do something. So if you learned while making your suit, share the knowledge. Next up, this is probably something people don't want to hear, but that's do put in money for better supplies. Now, I've seen a lot of comments on past videos. Ow! Stop it! I've seen a lot of comments on past videos. I've seen a lot of comments in past videos I've made where I talked about supplies where people are like, oh, I got this at Joann's, or I got fur at Walmart, or whatever you want to say. And bottom line, do what you want. Buy your fur wherever you want. But if I really had to say, I would highly suggest putting in the money for the better supplies because you know it's going to look better in the long run. Yeah, it's going to take more time because you got to save money. It's going to be more expensive, so maybe you can't buy as much as you want, but you're really going to be happy in the end. There are things you can get out there at like Joann's and Walmart and whatever you want that you don't have to buy online, but when it really comes to like the fur and maybe the other fabric, I will always advocate for buying it online. Maybe you might think, hey, this is my first fursuit. I don't really have to, I'm just messing with it. That's also a valid point to bring up because my first fursuit was made with Joann's craft fur. I didn't really know what I was doing, so I bought cheap fur and I messed around. That's completely valid. I know it kind of contradicts my point, but with so many new makers out there and so many new like tutorials and info videos and stuff, it's really easy to make an awesome fursuit in your first go, which if you're going to do that, why not put in the money for the better supplies to make that awesome first fursuit really good? Stop. So yeah, again, it's your life, it's your funds, do what you want, but if it were me, I would save the money, I'd buy that nice fur, because you know at the end of the day, even if you can make that cheap fur or those cheap supplies work, nothing compares to the real thing. Next up, don't cut corners. I know that sounds really general, and I know that kind of sounds more like general life advice or general art advice, but I'm going to elaborate on what that means for your first fursuit. When you're building your first fursuit, chances are there's a lot of stuff you don't know. You don't know what you're doing, you're just starting, you're just getting into it, you're taking the plunge, so you're not exactly sure how to and to not do something to make it functional. So what I mean when I say cut corners is if you get to a point in making your first fursuit where you're like, oh, I can just skip that, I don't have to do it, don't do that. Especially on the more important parts. And once again, delving back into my history, when I made that one suit I've talked about a million times way back when I was still learning, it was probably the second or third fursuit, I was like, oh, I don't need to carve out the inside of the mouth. I don't have time for that. I'm just gonna leave it as like, you know, really thin. Well, cut to Anthrocon fursuit photo. I was having a breakdown because I couldn't breathe in my fursuit. Don't think, hey, I don't have to glue this down, or hey, I don't have to carve this out, or hey, I can make my fursuit look like a cat with a super long muzzle. It's just probably not gonna work, guys. So I highly suggest as much as you can, try not to cut the corners, put the time in, put the work in, and your first fursuit will come out looking great and functional. Alright, we're down to the end of the list, and these last two are going to kind of sound cliche, but they need to be said. So the last one is do. Keep at it. And I don't mean keep at it in the sense, oh, make your first fursuit, it'll look bad, just keep making them, you'll get better. I mean in the moment, when you're making your first fursuit, it's gonna get discouraging. Like I said earlier in this video, this is something new. You don't really know what you're doing, and even if you watched a ton of tutorials and you watched a ton of videos, putting the pedal to the metal is a lot different than watching other people do it. So you're in new water, you're trying something new. And with trying something new comes a lot of discouragement when it doesn't go right. So just keep working on it. If you reach a point on that suit where you don't know what you're doing or whatever you're trying is just not coming out, don't give up. Take a step back, calm down, maybe go back to it in a day or two with new energy. You'll feel better about it. Just keep making it and finish it, because at the end of the day, even if you come up with something you're not super proud of and you're like, it's my first try, it didn't really come out how I wanted it, you learned something along the way. You learned a ton, and that is all stuff you can apply to your next project. So if you're working on your first fursuit and you're like, this sucks, I hate this, nothing is coming out right, don't give up, please, because even if it doesn't look good, like I said, it's something that you managed to do, and it'll just keep getting better. And I know this is probably common knowledge, but things get better with time. You're only going to keep getting better with every project you do, and that's not going to happen if you just quit and you're like, I can't do this, it wasn't for me. So, I mean, of course there are things that aren't for you, so if you really feel like, it's not for you, don't push yourself. But you really want to do it, just don't give up. You're going to do it. You're going to make it happen. Took me 9 years to get from where I was back then to now, so I'm living proof that you shouldn't give up. This last don't kind of goes hand in hand with what I was just saying, and it's probably the hardest thing to do on this entire list. It's something that I even do to this day, still working through it, and that is, don't be discouraged by other people's work. It is so hard to not be discouraged by other people's work. Believe me, I know the feeling. But especially when it comes to your first fursuit, since as I said before, there are so many new makers popping up nowadays, and there's so many people making their first fursuit for the first time. So it's so easy to go online and see other people making their first suit, and you're like, wow, why isn't my suit looking this good? How did they get it that good in the first go? Or even, unrealistically looking up to professional makers and being like, wow, why doesn't my suit look like that? Well, try not to compare yourself to the pros, because like I said, they've had years of doing this and you're doing it for the first time, so there's really no competition there. But if you're looking at somebody else who is also doing one of their first fursuits and you're thinking, why doesn't mine look that good? But for the obvious reason, you don't know what they're doing different. You don't know their circumstances. Maybe they actually had a pro maker sit with them and help them make it. But the point of this is don't give up when you're seeing that, because maybe your first fursuit doesn't look as great as somebody else's, but that doesn't mean that you didn't just sit down and make a fursuit. I mean, okay, I don't want to sound like, cliche or anything, but this fursuit, compared to a regular, arts and crafts person, somebody who just makes art on the side, this is like the Olympics of craft making. A fursuit is just naturally pretty hard to make. You might not think that because you're around them all the time. You're like, oh, people are making fursuits so easy. But if you sat down with any like regular artist or regular person, they can't make a fursuit. So look at what you just did and be like, dang man, I made that, and it might not be as great as other people, but I made that. And use that to fuel yourself to your next project and continue to get better. So like I said, please do your best to not be discouraged by other people. I know it's going to happen, but don't let it be, the killing blow to your creative streak or make you want to give up, because we all have days where we feel discouraged. We all have days where we let other people's better work get us down. We just don't want to create anymore. But all you gotta do is, if you need to, dwell on it, let the negative feelings flow through, let them come out, go to bed, wake up the next day, and even if you're not feeling better, be like, I might not feel good about it now, but I definitely will eventually. If you're looking for a sign to pick that suit back up because you got discouraged, because you didn't think it was coming out well, here's the sign. Go pick it back up. Go finish it. It's gonna look great. Do it. I believe in you. Alright everyone, that's it for this video. As you can see, my cat is once again in this video because she doesn't know what boundaries are. She's been chewing on my foot this whole vid, so if you've been seeing me like fidget or you've been seeing my stand move, it's because she's a little demon. That's how it goes. But yeah, let me know what you want to see in the next video. I will do my best to create it. The next video might be the last one for a little bit because in mid-September, I'm going on a big trip which means I will not be here. I'll go a little bit more into that in the future, but for now, just know there might only be one more video for a while, and then there'll be videos after that, but you know, after I go on my trip. But yeah, I hope you liked this video. I hope I was articulate. I hope I made sense. I hope I worded everything right. And if you're out there making your first fursuit, I wish you luck. If you're about to create your first fursuit, I also wish you luck. Don't give up. It's gonna be great. And if you are interested in, like, you know, more specific what to do on making your first fursuit or making a fursuit in general, check out literally any of my other videos where I go in detail about specific things to do on specific parts of the fursuit. So yeah, I will see you all next time, hopefully without a cat biting my foot the whole time. So until then, bye!